Hello, Tim from Fair Play Now on the 16th of January 2024. So, 4 years pretty much to the day since the whole Lurgy thing first came onto my radar. Now, I think it was about the 16th, maybe the 15th, give or take a day around the 16th, but in mid-January 2020, there I was going through my YouTube feed looking for something interesting to watch, and on the news section was when I first saw that cartoon character of the Lurgy, of what it's supposed to look like, and headlines about the deadly Lurgy coming out of China, all the rest of it. You know the kind of thing what I'm talking about. And initial thoughts at the time were, oh no, not another one of these things. They always seem to come out of the Far East, never anywhere else, always out of the Far East. They come across and all the news were reporting on it, saying how deadly it's going to be, or could possibly be. And then kind of 6 months later, you're like, oh, whatever happened to that then? That's how things were pre-2020, and I just thought that was what it's going to be again. So I didn't think too much of it at the time. The only time when I started getting a little bit concerned about things is when it persisted all the way through February and into March, and well, obviously we know what happened after that. So my initial thoughts in mid-January was, I've just told you what they were. Now, 4 years, so exactly 4 years. How did the Lurgy come onto your radar? When did you first notice them going on about it, and what were your initial thoughts? That's what mine were. And what a wild ride these last 4 years have been. Absolutely crazy, isn't it? Such intense, deep lows, of course, and incredible highs as well. The low points for me were, especially going into the second and then the third lockdowns. I was in such deep despair. And although I'd started this channel by then, it was still a fledgling channel, handful of people only watching it, and I thought people of my viewpoint were very few and far between. It was a very lonely point. If only I'd known what I found out a few months later, that there was literally hundreds of thousands or millions of us, I would have probably felt quite a lot better. But that was certainly a low point in late 2020, early 2021. And then, of course, as we progressed through 2021, we had the despicable acts that happened, the care home staff mandate, and then the Plan B when that was voted in. And let's not forget that part of that involved basically hounding the likes of me and possibly you, if you didn't partake in a certain thing, hounding us out of society. They were going to say, well, you can't go to theatres and sports stadiums and that kind of thing. You can't do this, you can't do that. And that would have probably progressed on to other things as well. Maybe eventually you can't go anywhere into restaurants, shops or anything. So that was a low point. And it was the power of protest was something that really opened my eyes. Of course, when we're talking about highs and lows, the high points were, for me, among some other ones, were the protests, especially those huge ones in the spring and early summer of 2021. Absolutely massive. And like I say, that was when I was awoken to the fact that I wasn't alone, or that it wasn't just a few of us smelling a rat about this thing. There was loads and loads and loads of us, and that has been an absolute blessing to me, an absolutely fantastic thing. And the other thing that I've learned in these last few years is quite simply the power of protest. I'm sure we'd have been in a way worse place if we hadn't have done those protests, if we hadn't have spoken out. Not just the big protests, so many people have done so much to push back in their various ways, either making videos like this or writing articles or sort of organising events, going to events. There's so many different ways in which you can protest. It's not just about making banners and going down Oxford Street at the appointed time. There's so many other things that we can do to push back and to protest. And I think it's only because we did that we didn't see a fourth lockdown in December 2021, and also thanks to these protests, that was why we saw the rapid ending of the mandates. Plan B was kicked into touch, and soon after that, all of the other mandates and nonsense were lifted in early 2022. And again, I think that's thanks to the power of protesting. So anyone who sort of watches these videos and sort of says, all these protests, they never do anything, they don't work, I've got to disagree with you. I think they do work, and I think they work big time. Adding on to that, I saw an article, not that I read this particular publication, don't worry, I just saw it on a Telegram feed, but The Guardian were saying basically how the government have sort of gone back on 15-minute city plans thanks to protests, really. Of course, that's not how they were framing it. They were saying, stupid old Conservative government listening to conspiracy theorists about their mistaken ideas on 15-minute cities. That's how they were talking about it. But despite that negative slant, you can't get over the fact from that report that our protesting, that big event we had in Oxford nearly a year ago on the 18th of February last year, and many other areas of pushback against the concept of 15-minute cities was what has caused this government to go back on the plans. We all know that they pulled the plug on funding local councils on the 15-minute cities. Can't remember when it was. It was a good 6 months ago that the government turned around to the local authorities and said, these 15-minute cities, if you want to carry on with them, you're on your own. You're going to have to fund them yourself. We're not going to be giving you any kind of funding on it. And again, this kind of thing, although it might not seem obvious, that is thanks to the power of protest. And of course, these huge protests in Germany happening at the moment, absolutely fantastic to see. And how long's that government going to last? The German government looks like it's on the brink of collapse, and rightly so. Good riddance with them bringing in their absolute nonsensical globalist plans when they're not wanted. And I think that government will be collapsing, or at least rolling back heavily on what they were proposing. And that is a delight to see. So that's one lesson I've learned over the last 4 years. Just our power. I never knew how powerful we ordinary people can be. Just the power of not just protest, but just saying I don't consent, or just a simple no. No, I'm not going to tolerate this nonsense. You can bring in what you like, but I'm not going to tolerate it. And I think it was someone like Mark Twain, pretty sure it's Mark Twain, who said something along the lines of, if voting actually did anything, if it worked, it wouldn't be allowed. Well, just substitute, instead of voting, protesting. And what we've seen at the moment, the government trying to bring in all of these draconian new laws and regulations and rules about protesting. Well, they're clearly worried that it works and that it works a little bit too well, and therefore they're trying to make steps to not allow it, allow the things to happen. So I think that proves the point, doesn't it? The power of protest. That's one valuable lesson I've learned. We can say no, we can push back, and if we do it hard enough, governments listen and they take action and they sort of roll back on their plans. And I'm going to continue. I would say to the government and the powers that shouldn't be, if you're considering doing anything like this that we've seen over the last 4 years ever again, well, I don't care how old I am, whether I'm 70, 80, 90 years old, if I'm still around then, of course, I will be doing everything I can to protest. I don't care what silly rules and regulations you bring in. Protesting in a lawful, peaceful way is a God-given right, and it's not yours to take away. And if I see injustice, if I see unfairness, if I see things happening that shouldn't be happening, I will speak out and I will protest, and I will carry on doing that. Now, go back 4 years ago, I would have never thought I'd be saying these sort of words. I'd have never thought I would have that kind of inner strength to, basically go on record, public record like this on a public platform, address the government and the powers that shouldn't be, and just say no, I do not consent to your absolute nonsense. Now, of course, one of the huge things that's helped to get me through these last 4 years is you, everybody watching this channel, all of the lovely comments I get, and this has been one of the huge blessings I've had over the last 4 years. Again, 4 years ago, I'd have never had a clue that I could have started and run a channel and seen it grow to the size it's got to. I didn't think I had that kind of thing in me, so there's been a certain amount of personal growth involved as well. It hasn't all been downs and negatives. There's been so many positives, and one of those is all of the fantastic new friends I've made in these last few years, you, and whether I've met you virtually here or in real life, as I have done with many viewers. I've met a good few hundred viewers now, I should think. And what a fantastic bunch of brothers and sisters you are, and I'm highly privileged to know you, highly privileged to speak to you, either in real life when we've met or through these videos. And I've got to say, you've helped me get through these last few years. You really have, and thank you very much for your support and your continued support as well. And so just a few reflections there on the kind of 4th anniversary that the Lurgy first came onto my radar, mid-January 2020. It's been a wild old ride, I can't deny that. But some valuable lessons have been learned. Just how powerful we are, and how powerful just saying I do not consent, no, really is. And if you don't think that means anything, that there's any power in that, well, I beg to differ. I really do think there is. So we're getting up to 15 minutes now, so on this 4th anniversary of the start of the nonsense. I'm going to leave it and I'll be back soon. Tim from Fair Play Now. Thanks for watching.